The Malforan science vessel Eternal Observer shuddered as its sensors detected the primitive nuclear explosion on Earth. Xenoanthropologist, lead researcher Vexnar's four eyes widened at the readings, mandibles clicking in agitation as he analyzed the data. These humans had progressed from basic atomic theory to functioning nuclear weapons in less than a decade, a development curve that defied all established models of species advancement. Replay the detonation sequence, Vexnar ordered, his exoskeletal fingers dancing across the holographic interface. The explosion replayed in high definition, the mushroom cloud rising over a remote desert. Fascinating and disturbing. This marks the seventh weapons technology they've developed ahead of our projected timeline. Science Officer Kraltex shifted uncomfortably, her chromatophores flashing morning colors. The Council must be informed immediately. These humans show unprecedented adaptability. Indeed, Vexnar composed his report with care. Earth had already been classified as a Class 10 death world, a planet with extreme environmental pressures, aggressive predatory ecosystems, and violent geological activity. Such conditions typically produced hardy species, but humans were proving exceptional even by those standards. Quarantine is our only option, Vexnar concluded in his transmission to the Galactic Concord Council. These humans advance exponentially faster than predicted. Their creativity in warfare is disturbing. Their historical records indicate a species that turns everything, even peaceful technologies, into weapons with alarming efficiency. On the central world of the Concord, the Council reviewed Vexnar's findings with growing concern. High Chancellor Zintor, a member of the ancient Phyrexian species, raised a withered hand for attention. "I have reviewed all reports on this species," the Chancellor intoned, "and find a disturbing pattern. They create art celebrating their wars. They romanticize death and sacrifice. They thrive on conflict in ways no stable species should." "Are we suggesting termination protocols?" asked Ambassador Quilix of the Jovan Federation. "No," replied the Chancellor. "They remain primitive enough that containment is sufficient. We'll strengthen the quarantine barrier and continue observation. Earth shall remain isolated until we determine whether they represent a threat or an opportunity." The Council vote was unanimous. Humanity would remain quarantined, unaware of the greater galactic community, until they either destroyed themselves or evolved beyond their violent tendencies. Deep beneath the Antarctic ice, Lieutenant Commander Maya Chen watched the alien transmission through hijacked feeds from their undetectable observation satellites. The vast underground complex, known only to a select few world governments, housed Earth's most classified project, the reverse engineering of alien technology. "They still think we can't detect them," Chen said, unable to suppress a smile as she turned to General Hammond. "The arrogance is almost endearing." General Hammond, a weathered veteran who had spent 30 years overseeing humanity's secret space program, nodded grimly. "Their overconfidence gives us time. How's the decryption coming on their latest communications?" "Complete," Chen replied, pulling up a holographic display of the alien language, translated into English. "They're reinforcing the quarantine because they've noticed our nuclear tests. They're also pulling resources from our sector due to some conflict on the rim of their territory." "The Jurek?" "Most likely. Their transmissions mention aggressive expansion and conquered worlds." Chen's expression darkened. "Sir, from what we've gathered, these Jurek don't take prisoners." Hammond studied the strategic display showing the galaxy as mapped from intercepted Concord data. "If the Concord falls or abandons this sector, we'll be exposed." "How long until Project Leviathan is operational?" "Final systems integration is proceeding ahead of schedule. The propulsion systems derived from their discarded tech are exceeding expectations." "The weapons systems." Chen paused, allowing herself a moment of pride. "They're beyond anything the Concord has developed. We've taken their basic principles and evolved them in directions they never considered. They think containing us was a mercy," Hammond said, looking at images of the alien council discussing Earth's fate. They don't understand that isolation just forced us to become stronger. Chen nodded as she authorized the final phase of testing for Project Leviathan. The massive underground hangar beneath them housed humanity's response to the stars, a vessel that would redefine space warfare. Let the aliens believe their quarantine worked. Let them think humans remained primitive, squabbling among themselves on their death world. The greatest advantage in any conflict was being underestimated. As Chen walked through the sterile white corridors toward the command center, she reflected on humanity's peculiar position. For decades, Earth's unified shadow government had intercepted and decoded the aliens' communications, learning about the galaxy while remaining hidden. The knowledge that humans were considered too dangerous to join galactic society had initially sparked outrage, then grim determination. If the galaxy feared what humanity might become, then humanity would give them something truly worth fearing. Chen entered her authorization code, and the massive blast doors to Project Leviathan's control center slid open. Before her stretched a panoramic window overlooking an impossible sight, a 3-kilometer-long spacecraft being assembled by thousands of workers and robots. Its matte black hull absorbed light in a way that made the eyes slide off it. The first application of the metamaterial cloaking technology reverse-engineered from recovered alien fragments. Status report, she asked the project director. 97% complete, he answered. We'll be ready for full space trials in 3 months. Chen smiled. The quarantine had given humanity something no alien could understand. Unity through a common adversary. When the Leviathan finally emerged from Earth's shadow, the galaxy would learn that containing humanity had been their greatest mistake. The countdown to humanity's galactic debut had begun. Admiral Elena Vostok's boots echoed through the cavernous Martian hangar as she approached humanity's masterpiece. The underground facility, carved from the red planet's bedrock, stretched for kilometers in every direction. A cathedral to human ingenuity hidden from prying alien eyes. At the center of this technological temple hung the TDS Leviathan, suspended in its massive construction cradle. Even after dozens of inspections, the sight still took Vostok's breath away. 3 kilometers of matte black hull, incorporating both reverse-engineered alien technology and innovations no other species had conceived. The vessel didn't simply represent humanity's greatest achievement. It embodied their defiance against cosmic quarantine. "Magnificent, isn't she?" said Chief Engineer Rajiv Thekal, falling into step beside the Admiral. His dark eyes reflected the blue glow of the holographic displays surrounding them. "Final systems check complete. Our metamaterial hull absorbs 98% of scanner emissions. They'll never see us coming. Kinetic accelerator cannons are operational, stealth systems exceed specifications, and the neural interface core is synchronized with our pilot candidates." Vostok ran her hand along a hull plate, feeling the strange, not quite solid texture of the metamaterial. "And they have no idea we built this. The Concord pulled their surveillance resources 8 months ago," Thekal replied, bringing up a tactical display showing the dramatic reduction in alien monitoring satellites. Something's drawing their attention elsewhere. The War Division intercepted transmissions about multiple Concord worlds going dark near the Cygnus Arm. "The Zurich," Vostok murmured. Intelligence gathered from intercepted communications painted a grim picture of the expansionist empire. Unlike the Concord's policy of containment and observation, the Zurich conquered through absolute destruction. A junior officer approached, saluting crisply. "Admiral, we've just received an urgent communication from Earth Command. Lieutenant Commander Chen requests your immediate attention." Vostok nodded and followed the officer to the secure communications hub. Maya Chen's face appeared on the screen, her expression grim. "Admiral, our deep space monitoring network has detected multiple FTL signatures entering the solar system. The energy signatures match known Zurich vessels based on Concord intelligence we intercepted. The full invasion fleet, bypassing the abandoned quarantine sensors." Vostok felt ice in her veins. Projected target, Earth, without question. Their approach vector indicates they'll reach optimal orbital position in 17 hours. The Concorde has completely withdrawn from our sector. We're on our own. Strength assessment. 27 capital ships, approximately 40 support vessels. They clearly expect to find a defenseless primitive planet. Vostok straightened, decision made. Inform Earth Command that we're deploying the Leviathan. Begin evacuation of non-essential personnel from the facility. Chen's eyebrows rose. The Leviathan hasn't completed its full trial sequence. We're still calibrating the... We're out of time, Commander, Vostok interrupted. Better to deploy now than wait for the Zurich to discover this facility. If they take Mars, they'll have a strategic position to attack Earth. After the communication ended, Vostok returned to the main hangar where organized chaos had erupted. Engineers and technicians rushed through final preparations, while military personnel boarded the massive vessel. We're accelerating the launch timeline, she informed Beckel. The Leviathan deploys in 6 hours. The chief engineer paled slightly but nodded. We'll be ready, Admiral. Vostok made her way to the bridge access elevator. As the doors closed, she allowed herself one moment of doubt. The Leviathan represented humanity's collective knowledge, resources, and determination, a project that had united former enemies under the banner of species survival. If it failed, Earth would have nothing comparable to deploy against the Zurich fleet. The bridge of the Leviathan hummed with activity as Vostok stepped through the armored doors. Unlike the cramped, utilitarian command centers of earlier human vessels, the Leviathan's bridge was spacious and ergonomic. Holographic displays provided 360-degree awareness, while neural interface stations allowed officers to process information at superhuman speeds. "Admiral on deck," called the executive officer, and the bridge crew snapped to attention. "As you were," Vostok said, taking her position in the command chair. "Status report. All critical systems online," reported the operations officer. "Weapons at 94% capacity, propulsion at full capability, stealth systems operational. Neural interface pilots are synchronized and ready. Communications. Earth Command confirms Zurich fleet is maintaining course. They've detected no sign that the aliens are aware of our presence on Mars." Vostok nodded. "That gives us the element of surprise. Upload tactical plan Delta 7 to all command stations." The massive docking clamps released with thunderous booms that reverberated through the hull. Warning klaxons echoed through the Martian facility as the gigantic hangar doors above began to part, revealing the rust-colored sky. "Initiate stealth protocols," Vostok ordered. "Passive sensors only until we clear Mars orbit." The Leviathan rose silently from its birthplace, the metamaterial hull bending light around its massive form. To any observer, human, Concorde, or Zurich, Mars' surface remained unchanged, giving no indication that humanity's greatest weapon had just taken flight. In the neural interface chambered deep within the ship, Lieutenant Sasha Kuznetsov and 5 other pilots floated in suspension tanks, their consciousness expanded across the Leviathan systems. Through their enhanced perception, the massive vessel became an extension of their bodies, responsive, intuitive, alive. "Neural integration at optimal levels," reported the interface technician. "The ship is singing." "Admiral." Vostok allowed herself a small smile. "Then let's make sure the Zurich hear our song clearly. Set intercept course. We'll position ourselves between their fleet and Earth." As the Leviathan accelerated beyond Mars orbit, its massive engines leaving no visible trace, Vostok studied the tactical display showing the approaching Zurich fleet. They had no idea what awaited them, a vessel designed by a species they didn't know existed, using technology they couldn't comprehend. "Prepare to introduce ourselves to the galaxy," Vostok said softly. "It seems the Leviathan will have its inaugural voyage ahead of schedule." The massive Dreadnought moved silently through the void, humanity's sentinel awakening for its first hunt. Earth's greatest achievement, secretly the first of several, prepared to reveal itself to an unsuspecting galaxy. The Symphony of Steel was about to begin its opening movement. Zurich High Commander Kivex stalked across the polished obsidian deck of his flagship, the Worldbreaker, mandibles clicking with anticipation. His chitinous exoskeleton gleamed under the red battle lights as he studied the holographic display of the Sol system. The blue-green planet designated Earth rotated slowly in the projection, completely unaware of its impending doom. Primitive defenses detected, High Commander reported Tactical Officers Exur. Rudimentary satellites, minimal weapons capability. No sign of FTL technology or energy shielding. Kivex's compound eyes reflected the hologram as he circled it predatorily. His species had conquered 17 worlds in their relentless expansion, harvesting resources and enslaving populations with brutal efficiency. The Exuric Empire grew stronger with each conquest, and primitive Earth would be their 18th trophy. The intelligence from our scouts was accurate. Kivex chittered, mandibles spreading in the Exuric equivalent of a smile. The Concord has abandoned this sector. Their quarantine beacons are inactive. Unusual for them to leave a developing world unprotected, observed his second-in-command. The Concord grows weak. Kivex replied dismissively. Our attacks on their outer colonies have drawn their forces away from non-critical sectors. Their obsession with observation rather than conquest makes them predictable. The command deck fell silent as the fleet approached Earth's orbital path. 27 capital ships and 43 support vessels moved in perfect formation, overwhelming force for a primitive world. Standard conquest protocol, Kivex ordered, settling into his command throne. Target their largest natural satellite for demonstration strike. Once destroyed, broadcast surrender demands in all Earth languages. The Worldbreaker's primary weapon systems came online, targeting Earth's moon. The energy matrices glowed ominously as they built toward critical discharge. Firing solution locked. High Commander. Weapons charged at 80%. Kivex raised a clawed appendage, preparing to give the order that would announce the Exuric Empire's arrival to yet another doomed civilization. Energy spike. Tactical Officer Zexur suddenly shouted, his voice rising in alarm. Massive vessel decloaking off our starboard flank. The holographic display flickered as an impossibly large ship materialized seemingly from empty space. Kivex rose from his throne, mandibles clicking rapidly in shock. The vessel was enormous, nearly 3 kilometers in length, its matte black hull bristling with weapons arrays unlike anything in Concord or Exuric arsenals. Impossible, he hissed. No species could hide a vessel of that magnitude. Our sensors would have detected the energy signature. High Commander, we're being hailed, announced the communications officer. Kivex hesitated, then nodded sharply. Display. A human female appeared on the main screen. Her dark hair was pulled back severely from a face that showed no fear, only cold confidence. She wore a dark uniform adorned with unfamiliar insignia. This is Admiral Elena Vostok of the Terran Defense Force, she stated, her voice level and authoritative. You have entered sovereign human space without permission. Your weapons are targeted on a celestial body sacred to our people. Power down your offensive systems and prepare to be boarded or face immediate destruction. Kivex stared in momentary shock before recovering his composure. His mandibles clicked rapidly in amusement, a sound that would have chilled any who understood Exuric expressions. I am High Commander Kivex of the glorious Exuric Empire, he responded. Your primitive species is unknown to us, but your world will now serve the Empire. A single ship, no matter how large, cannot threaten our fleet. Your species will serve. We attempted diplomacy, Admiral Vostok interrupted, her expression unchanging. Remember that. The transmission cut abruptly. Arrogant creatures, Kivex snarled. Target their vessel, and he never finished the order. The Leviathan's main accelerator cannons fired in perfect synchronization. 3 Exuric cruisers, each the product of centuries of technological advancement, disintegrated instantly. Their advanced energy shields, designed to repel plasma weapons and particle beams, offered no protection against projectiles moving at 99.8% the speed of light. The kinetic impact created brief, brilliant flashes in the void, followed by expanding clouds of superheated particles that had once been warships carrying thousands of Kjurek warriors. In the following seconds of stunned silence, the Kjurek command deck erupted into chaos. 3 destroyers gone. No survivors. Unknown weapon signature. Projectile-based but accelerated beyond recorded capabilities. Shield configurations ineffective. Vex's exoskeleton seemed to grow tight around him as the reality of the situation became clear. The human vessel had destroyed 3 capital ships in a single strike. Ships that had survived engagements with the most advanced Concord defenses. Evasive pattern Gamma 9, he ordered. All ships redistribute shield harmonics. Target the human vessel with all available weapons. The Kjurek fleet broke formation, executing complex evasive maneuvers developed over centuries of warfare. Energy beams and plasma torpedoes streaked toward the Leviathan in overwhelming numbers. Aboard the human vessel, Admiral Vostok watched the Kjurek response with clinical detachment. As expected, she noted, their tactical doctrine prioritizes overwhelming force over innovation. Neural pilots execute maneuver sequence alpha. In the neural interface chamber, Lieutenant Sasha Kuznetsov and her fellow pilots merged their consciousness more deeply with the ship's systems. The Leviathan responded instantly, moving with impossible grace for a vessel of its size. The ship twisted, accelerated, and changed vectors in ways that defied conventional physics, avoiding the majority of the Kjurek barrage. The few impacts that did connect were absorbed by the metamaterial hull, which converted the energy into power for the Leviathan's secondary systems. Forward batteries charge, reported Weapons Officer Harris. Neural targeting solution acquired. Fire at will, Vostok ordered. The Leviathan's secondary weapons arrays activated in rolling sequence, targeting the engines and weapon systems of the Kjurek vessels. Precision strikes disabled 7 ships in rapid succession, leaving them adrift in space. On the Worldbreaker, Vex watched in horror as his fleet's coordination collapsed. The human vessel anticipated their attacks with impossible accuracy, adapting faster than his tactical computers could recommend alternatives. "How are they predicting our movements?" he demanded, smashing a control panel in fury. No species possesses such technology. His second-in-command approached cautiously. "High Commander, our intelligence on Earth may have been severely outdated. I recommend strategic withdrawal to regroup and analyze their capabilities." Vex's pride warred with his tactical assessment. The Empire had never retreated from a conquest, but they had never encountered a species that could conceal their technological advancement so completely. As the Worldbreaker shuddered under another precision strike, Vex made a decision that would haunt him for the remainder of his life. All vessels, emergency jump coordinates, retreat to fallback position. The surviving Kjurek ships engaged their FTL drives in desperate sequence, leaving their disabled companions behind. As the Worldbreaker prepared to jump, Admiral Vostok's face appeared once more on their communications display. "Tell your Empire what happened here today," she said calmly. "Tell them Earth is off limits. This was merely our greeting party." The Worldbreaker vanished into FTL, carrying with it the terrifying knowledge that a species thought to be primitive now possessed technology that made them the most dangerous force in the galaxy. On the Leviathan's bridge, Admiral Vostok allowed herself a small smile of satisfaction as she surveyed the disabled Kjurek vessels floating helplessly in space. "Prepare boarding parties," she ordered. "I want their navigational data, communications protocols, and any intelligence on both the Kjurek Empire and the Concord." "And the Kjurek crew?" asked her executive officer. Vostok's expression hardened. "We are not Kjurek. Offer surrender. Process them according to established protocols for prisoners of war." The first battle between humanity and an alien power had lasted less than 15 minutes. The galaxy had just witnessed the opening move in a game-changer none had anticipated. Humanity had drawn first blood. "They're coming back," announced Sensor Officer Michaels, his eyes never leaving the holographic display. Multiple FTL signatures detected at the edge of the system. Significantly larger force this time. Admiral Vostok nodded, unsurprised. The Exuric defeat 3 days ago had been humiliating, a prelude to the true battle she had been preparing for since taking command of the Leviathan. Numbers: 49 capital ships, over 100 support vessels, Michaels replied. They'd brought their entire regional fleet. The bridge crew exchanged glances. Despite the Leviathan's impressive capabilities, the odds were daunting. "Status of our reinforcements?" Vostok asked, her voice betraying none of her concern. Communications Officer Rivera touched her neural interface, accessing data streams at accelerated speed. TDS Prometheus is en route from Saturn's shadow. The Artemis, Ares, and Athena are maintaining position in the asteroid belt. Earth defense grid is at full readiness. And our special asset, Lieutenant Kuznetsov, is prepared for deep integration, reported the neural systems specialist. Medical monitors show optimal neural plasticity. She believes she can push the interface beyond designed parameters. Vostok's expression darkened. The risks: significant. Potential neural burnout, identity fragmentation, permanent psychological damage. I volunteered. "Admiral," came Kuznetsov's voice over the comm system. The young lieutenant's face appeared on a secondary display, her eyes already showing the distinctive glow of neural enhancement. "The simulations indicate we'll need every advantage against a force this size." Vostok studied the officer's face. Lieutenant Sasha Kuznetsov was the most gifted neural pilot in the program, her mind capable of processing tactical information at speeds that bordered on precognition. If anyone could survive deep integration with the Leviathan's combat intelligence, it was her. "Proceed," Vostok ordered finally. "But I want medical standing by to force terminate the connection at the first sign of neural cascade." Inside the neural chamber deep within the Leviathan, Kuznetsov floated in the suspension tank as technicians adjusted the sensitivity of the interface spines connected to her neural implants. Unlike conventional pilots who merely received enhanced sensory input, neural pilots like Kuznetsov formed a symbiotic relationship with the ship itself. "Beginning deep integration sequence," announced the chief technician, his fingers moving across holographic controls. "Lieutenant, your neural pattern will remain primary, but you'll experience significant expansion of consciousness as you merge with the ship's tactical systems." Kuznetsov nodded, her expression serene despite the danger. "I understand." Proceeding to Phase 1 integration. The chamber dimmed as power redirected to the neural interface. Kuznetsov's body arched slightly, her eyes widening as her consciousness expanded beyond human limitations. The ship's vast sensor arrays became extensions of her senses, its weapon systems like additional limbs. The tactical database, with centuries of warfare strategies downloaded into her expanded awareness. "Phase 1 integration complete," she reported, her voice overlaid with harmonic resonances as the ship's systems began processing her speech patterns. Proceeding to Phase 2. While alien species had rejected human-machine integration as dangerous and unpredictable, Earth had embraced it. The Leviathan wasn't just a ship, it was a hybrid consciousness, with human intuition guiding machine precision. On the bridge, Vostok watched the tactical display as the Exuric fleet approached in attack formation. Kivx had clearly learned from their previous encounter. His ships moved in complex, interlocking patterns designed to create overlapping fields of fire. "They've adapted their tactics," noted Executive Officer Cruz. "Their shield configurations are rotating on randomized frequencies to counter our kinetic weapons." Vostok nodded. "As expected. They're intelligent opponents. Signal all vessels to maintain stealth protocols. Let's see if they've actually detected our full capability." The massive Exuric fleet dropped out of FTL in perfect formation, their weapons immediately targeting the Leviathan. This time, they held nothing back. Hundreds of energy beams and plasma torpedoes streaked toward the human vessel in coordinated salvos designed to overwhelm even the most advanced defensive systems. Inside the neural chamber, Kuznetsov's consciousness expanded further as she initiated Phase 2 integration. The distinction between woman and machine blurred as the Leviathan's higher functions merged with her cognitive processes. She perceived time differently now, the incoming Zurich attack appearing to slow as her processing speed increased exponentially. Their attack formations follow predictable algorithms, she reported, her voice now laced with synthetic undertones. I can see the patterns. They're using a base 12 mathematical progression with intentional variations to appear random. Adjusting countermeasures. The Leviathan moved, not with the careful grace of its previous engagement, but with impossible fluidity, as though the massive ship had transformed into liquid metal. It twisted between salvos of energy weapons, accelerated through gaps in the attack pattern, and changed vectors at speeds that would have crushed any crew not protected by inertial dampening fields. On the Worldbreaker, Keyvex watched in mounting horror as his coordinated attack failed completely. The human vessel seemed to anticipate every move, adapting faster than his tactical computers could recommend alternatives. How are they evading? He demanded, his mandibles clicking furiously. No pilot could react with such precision. His new second-in-command, appointed after the previous one's execution for failure, approached with caution. High Commander, we're detecting unusual energy patterns from the human vessel. They appear to be using some form of biological-mechanical integration we've never encountered. Keyvex absorbed this information with growing rage. The Concord claimed these creatures were primitives. They assured us this sector was ripe for conquest. Perhaps they were deceived as well, suggested the officer. Or perhaps the humans have advanced at an unprecedented rate. A new alert sounded across the command deck. High Commander. Additional vessels decloaking throughout the system. Keyvex turned back to the tactical display as multiple signatures appeared from seemingly empty space. From behind Earth's moon, from the shadow of the fourth planet, from the debris field circling the system, human vessels of various sizes, but similar design materialized, their weapons already locked on Zurich targets. Impossible, Keyvex whispered. They couldn't have built a fleet without detection. When the Leviathan deployed its fighter squadrons, sleek craft piloted by humans with lesser neural interfaces, the battle shifted from one-sided to apocalyptic. The human fighters moved with precision that bordered on prescience, targeting weak points in Zurich shields and avoiding defensive fire with contemptuous ease. All vessels, Keyvex ordered, his voice subdued by shock, concentrate fire on their command ship. Overload their defensive capabilities. The entire Zurich fleet focused its firepower on the Leviathan, creating a storm of energy that briefly outshone the system's sun. For a moment, it seemed the human vessel would finally be overwhelmed. In the neural chamber, Kuznetsov's body convulsed as damage reports flooded her consciousness. Warning signals blared as her vital signs fluctuated dangerously. Neural cascade imminent, shouted the chief technician. We need to terminate the connection. No, Kuznetsov's voice echoed through the ship's communication system. I can handle it. Initiating Phase 3 integration. Lieutenant, stand down. Vostok ordered. That's an untested protocol. But Kuznetsov had already initiated the final phase, complete neural synchronization. Her consciousness expanded beyond design parameters, merging with the Leviathan's deepest systems. Her perception of reality transformed fundamentally as she became the ship in every meaningful sense. What happened next would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for centuries. The Leviathan's hull began to ripple as the metamaterial composition reconfigured at the quantum level, channeling the absorbed energy from the Zurich attack into the ship's offensive systems. The Dreadnought seemed to phase in and out of conventional reality, its outline blurring as it moved in ways that defied physics. The counterattack was devastating. The Leviathan fired all weapon systems simultaneously, each shot finding vulnerable points with impossible accuracy. 17 Zurich vessels were disabled or destroyed in the first salvo. The human fighter squadrons, now linked to Kuznetsov's expanded consciousness, moved in perfect coordination like extensions of a single entity. As his flagship shuddered under another devastating impact, K-Vex made a decision that would define the remainder of his existence. All vessels, emergency jump. Retreat to Central Territory. The surviving Zurich ships engaged their FTL drives in desperate sequence. As the World Breaker prepared to jump, Admiral Vostok's transmission reached them one final time. You have witnessed only a fraction of humanity's capability. Return, and we will show you our full strength. The Zurich fleet vanished into FTL, leaving behind the wreckage of their defeated vessels. In the Leviathan's neural chamber, medical teams worked frantically to disconnect Lieutenant Kuznetsov. When they finally extracted her from the interface, her eyes continued to glow with inhuman awareness. I saw them, she whispered to Admiral Vostok. I saw all of them, the Zurich, the Concorde, the entire galaxy of species. They've been watching us, studying us, fearing us. She smiled faintly. And they were right to be afraid. The battle for Earth had been won, but Vostok knew this was merely the opening move in a greater game. Humanity had revealed itself to the stars. There was no returning to the shadows now. The message would spread rapidly across Zurich territory and beyond, along with the terrifying knowledge that a species thought to be contained now possessed technology that made them the most dangerous force in the galaxy. The mind of war had awakened. The emergency session of the Galactic Concorde's High Council erupted into chaos as the recording of the Battle of Seoul played on the chamber's main display. Representatives from 37 species watched in stunned silence as a human vessel, the one designated Leviathan, systematically destroyed or disabled the elite fleet of the Zurich Empire. This is impossible, declared Supreme Councillor Thrix of the Azurian Dominion, his crystalline form pulsating with agitation. Golden light flashed through his translucent body, a sign of extreme distress among his silicon-based species. These primates were pre-spaceflight when we established the quarantine. How could they develop technology that surpasses our own? The council chamber, a vast amphitheater suspended in the upper atmosphere of Concorde Prime, normally maintained the dignified silence befitting the galaxy's governing body. Today, it echoed with frightened murmurs and accusatory outbursts. We've been monitoring them for over 2 centuries, responded Science Director Zolran, her tentacled appendages twisting nervously around her data interface. Our quarantine protocols were supposed to be impenetrable. Clearly, hissed Councillor Vexnar, the xenoanthropologist who had originally recommended Earth's quarantine. We have catastrophically underestimated these humans. Their technological development curve defies all established models. From her elevated position at the center of the chamber, High Chancellor Illyria of the ancient Phyrexian species called for order, her withered hands raised above her head in the traditional gesture of command. The recording we have just witnessed was transmitted deliberately, she reminded the assembly, her voice amplified by the chamber's acoustics. The humans want us to see their capabilities. The question before this council is simple. What do we do with this information? Ambassador Telerin, a serene member of the telepathic Voxari, placed her 6-fingered hands flat on the council table. The dermal bioluminescence patterns beneath her pale skin shifted to indicate deep concern. The better question, she suggested, is what else have they built while we weren't watching? How many of these Leviathans exist? And why reveal themselves now, after maintaining the illusion of ignorance for so long? Military strategist Kraldex, representing the warlike Teridian Confederation, leaped to his feet. His exoskeletal armor clicked as he pointed accusingly at Vexnar. You assured this council that humans were confined to their homeworld. Now we face a species with technology that defeated the Zurich. We must mobilize the Concorde Defense Fleet immediately and neutralize the human threat before they expand beyond their solar system. The chamber erupted again as multiple representatives shouted support or opposition. Some demanded immediate military action, while others argued for diplomatic engagement, recognizing a potential powerful ally against the Xuric expansion that had claimed multiple Concord worlds. "We cannot rush to conflict," counseled Ambassador Narration of the collectivist hive minds. "If these humans can defeat the Xuric fleet, what chance would our vessels have?" "Perhaps negotiation. Negotiation with a death world species that has deceived us for centuries," interrupted Counselor Thrix. "They've been building weapons while pretending to be primitive. That alone demonstrates hostile intent." A sudden silence fell over the chamber as every communication device simultaneously activated. On each representative's personal display appeared the same image: a human female with features that struck many council members as unnervingly predatory. She wore a simple but elegant uniform bearing unfamiliar insignia. "Esteemed representatives of the Galactic Concord," she began, her voice perfectly translated into each species' native language. "I am Ambassador Sarah Chen of Earth. We apologize for accessing your communication network without permission, but conventional channels seemed insufficient for our introduction." Outraged murmurs swept the chamber at this casual admission of infiltrating supposedly secure systems. "Humanity respectfully requests permission to send a diplomatic envoy aboard our vessel, the Leviathan," Chen continued, apparently oblivious to the Council's reaction. "We look forward to discussing the illegal quarantine of our planet, the reparations due to humanity, and our potential alliance against the Xuric Empire, whose expansion threatens us all." Her expression shifted subtly, showing what several xenopsychologists would later identify as a uniquely human micro-expression of predatory satisfaction. "We await your prompt response." The transmission ended, leaving the Council in stunned silence. Security officers frantically worked at their consoles, attempting to trace how their systems had been compromised. "They've been monitoring our communications," High Chancellor Illyria stated, breaking the silence. "Just as we monitored them. The difference being, they were aware of our surveillance while we remained ignorant of theirs." "The humans knew," Vexnar whispered, mandibles clicking in agitation. "All this time, they knew we were watching. They've been studying us through our own monitoring systems. Their request is both an olive branch and an unmistakable demonstration of power," observed T-Laren. "They could have struck at any Concord world without warning. Instead, they offer diplomacy, on their terms." The High Chancellor's ancient eyes surveyed the assembled representatives. "We must vote. Do we accept their diplomatic overture, or do we consider this a hostile first contact?" In the tense silence that followed, military strategist Kraldex voiced the fear that gripped many in the chamber. "What if they already have vessels positioned near our homeworlds? What if this diplomatic request is merely to distract us while they prepare to strike?" "Then refusing them would only accelerate conflict," replied Ambassador Narration. "If they have the power to defeat the Xuric and penetrate our most secure communications, they have the power to destroy us. Diplomacy may be our only option." The vote was taken with unusual swiftness. By overwhelming majority, the Concord Council agreed to receive Earth's diplomatic envoy aboard the Leviathan. As the session adjourned, Vexnar approached the High Chancellor privately. "We severely misjudged these humans," he admitted. "The quarantine didn't contain them, it motivated them. In trying to protect the galaxy from humanity, we may have created exactly what we feared." The Chancellor nodded gravely. "The question now is whether they seek vengeance or partnership. Either way, the galaxy will never be the same." The die was cast. The Concord would face whatever humanity had become during its long isolation, and hope that the species they had feared and contained might become an ally rather than the conqueror they had always dreaded. The Leviathan's arrival at Concord Prime, the massive space station serving as the galactic capital, caused near panic despite being expected. Traffic control operators struggled to manage the sudden rerouting of hundreds of vessels as the enormous human Dreadnought materialized at the designated coordinates. Its imposing hull dwarfed the Concorde's ceremonial vessels, and all attempts to scan its capabilities failed. Sensors simply slid off the metamaterial surface like water off oil. In the Grand Council chamber, representatives from 37 species waited with varying degrees of apprehension. Security had been tripled, though many privately acknowledged the futility of such measures against beings who had defeated the Gturic and penetrated the Concorde's most secure communications. "They're docking with the diplomatic extension," announced the chamber's protocol officer. Atmospheric composition adjusted to Earth standard. Security scans. Inconclusive. High Chancellor Illyria nodded, her ancient face betraying no emotion. "Proceed with the diplomatic reception." The massive doors to the chamber slid open, revealing the human delegation. Led by Ambassador Sarah Chen, the group consisted of 5 individuals dressed in simple, tailored attire, a stark contrast to the elaborate costumes and biological augmentations worn by most species representatives. This sartorial choice was a subtle psychological tactic that xenopsychologists would later identify as typically human, appearing confident without needing to flaunt status. Ambassador Chen moved with graceful authority to the center of the chamber. Unlike most species encountering the overwhelming grandeur of the council chamber for the first time, she showed no sign of being impressed. "Esteemed representatives of the Galactic Concorde," she began, her voice carrying easily through the vast space. "Humanity extends greetings. We come seeking both accountability and partnership." The High Chancellor's amplified voice responded with formal diplomatic protocol. "The Concorde acknowledges Earth's emergence and welcomes its representatives. We are surprised by your rapid technological advancement." A subtle smile curved Chen's lips. "Are you surprised by our advancement, Chancellor, or by your failure to detect it?" The directness of this response created a ripple of discomfort through the chamber. Most species practiced elaborate verbal rituals before addressing substantive matters. "Perhaps both," the Chancellor conceded. "Your species has demonstrated capabilities beyond our projections." "Projections based on incomplete data," Chen replied. "While your observation satellites studied our cities and weapons, you failed to notice what we were building beneath the surface of Mars and within the asteroid belt. More importantly, you failed to realize we had detected your surveillance centuries ago." Several council members shifted uncomfortably. Ambassador Telerin of the Voxari leaned forward. "If you were aware of the Concorde's presence, why maintain the illusion of ignorance?" "The same reason a novice chess player might conceal their true skill," Chen answered. "Strategic advantage. While you believed us primitive, we studied you through your own monitoring systems. We learned your languages, technologies, weaknesses, and strengths. We reversed engineered technology from the debris your observation vessels occasionally left behind, and built weapons," accused Councillor Thrix of the Azurian Dominion, his crystalline form flashing with agitation. "We built defenses," Chen corrected smoothly. "Which proved fortuitous when the Gturic arrived, did they not? Had we remained as primitive as you believed, Earth would now be a harvested husk." What followed was a masterclass in human diplomacy. Chen alternated between disarming charm and unflinching directness in a way that kept the alien representatives off balance. When they denied knowledge of harmful intentions behind Earth's quarantine, Chen activated a holographic display showing classified Concorde discussions about humanity. Subject species shows alarming development rates in weaponry despite limited resources, she quoted from the projection. Social cohesion remains fragmented, indicating potential for self-destruction before achieving interstellar capability. However, if unification occurs, recommend consideration of sterilization protocols to prevent expansion beyond Sol system. A hush fell over the chamber. "These recordings," Chen continued, her voice now carrying an edge of steel, "captured by Earth's detection of your supposedly undetectable monitoring stations, suggest a different narrative than the benevolent observation you claim." The Ashurian representative rose in outrage. "You dare threaten this council? Your single warship, impressive as it may be." "Single?" Chen interrupted, activating another hologram showing the Sol system. One by one, dozens of ships similar to the Leviathan decloaked in Earth orbit. Some were smaller, some larger, but all clearly of human design. We could have built a fleet and conquered your worlds before you knew we had achieved spaceflight. Instead, we offer alliance. The chamber erupted into alarmed conversations. The High Chancellor raised her hands for silence. What precisely does Earth seek from this alliance? She asked carefully. Chen's expression softened slightly. 3 things, Chancellor. First, recognition of Earth and all human colonies as sovereign territory with full Concord membership. Second, reparations for 2 centuries of illegal quarantine in the form of technology exchange and resource rights to uninhabited systems bordering Sol. Third, a mutual defense pact against the Exuric Empire, whose expansion threatens us all. Generous terms, considering your apparent military advantage, noted T. Laren suspiciously. Humanity has no interest in conquest, Chen replied. Unlike the Exuric, we don't require the subjugation of others to thrive. We prefer cooperation, but we will not be contained or controlled. And if the Concord refuses these terms, asked military strategist Kraldex, his exoskeletal armor clicking ominously. Chen's smile returned, but it didn't reach her eyes. We've already demonstrated our ability to penetrate your most secure communications and defeat your most feared adversary. We've shown restraint by not taking unilateral action against those who considered our sterilization. I believe we've made our capabilities clear. Her gaze swept the chamber. But perhaps a more concrete example is warranted. With a simple gesture, Chen activated a final holographic display. It showed real-time footage of key defensive installations on 27 different Concord worlds, installations whose locations were among the most closely guarded secrets in the galaxy. Had our intentions been hostile, she said quietly, none of you would be alive to have this conversation. Her final statement echoed through the now silent chamber. Humanity extends its hand in friendship, but make no mistake, we are not asking for permission to join your community. We are informing you of our arrival. The council recessed to deliberate, though the outcome was essentially predetermined. Within hours, the Galactic Concord formally recognized Earth as a sovereign power, agreed to negotiations for reparations, and established a framework for mutual defense against the Exuric threat. As Ambassador Chen returned to the Leviathan, she received a secure communication from Admiral Vostok. The Exuric are mobilizing their central fleet, Vostok reported. Our deep space monitoring network has detected massive movement toward the Imperial throne world. As expected, Chen replied. Emperor Scathar cannot tolerate the humiliation his forces suffered. How soon until they launch? Intelligence suggests 3 standard days. They're assembling the largest armada seen in recorded history. Chen nodded, unsurprised. Then we proceed to Phase 3. Inform Earth Command to prepare the Prometheus for deployment. The diplomatic dance had achieved its purpose. The Concord was neutralized as a potential threat, leaving humanity free to focus on the coming Exuric onslaught. The art of human negotiation had proven as formidable as human warfare, a combination that would soon reshape the galaxy. Emperor Scathar's carapace gleamed under the blood-red lights of the Imperial throne room. The ancient Exuric ruler, his exoskeleton reinforced with cybernetic enhancements that had kept him alive for 9 standard centuries, rose to his full 3-meter height as High Commander Kivex prostrated himself before the obsidian throne. You disgrace the Empire, Scathar hissed, his voice resonating through specialized vocal chambers that caused physical pain to those who displeased him. Defeated by primitives, fleeing from battle, you deserve execution. Kivex kept his head lowered, mandibles tucked close to his face in submission. The humans possess technology beyond our intelligence reports. Great Emperor. Their vessels move like living entities. Their weapons. Silence. The Emperor's tail whipped forward, its spiked end stopping millimeters from Kivex's eye. I care not for excuses. I care for results. The Emperor turned to the Imperial War Council, a circle of 12 Juric warchiefs who had conquered 1,000 worlds collectively. "Show me this human vessel that frightens our once proud commander." A holographic representation of the Leviathan appeared, rotating slowly above the central pit. The gathered warchiefs studied it with professional detachment, noting weapon emplacements and structural features. "Impressive," admitted Warchief Zexfer, the Empire's most decorated tactician. "But size alone does not grant victory." "Their hull composition is unknown," added Kivex cautiously. "Our sensors could not penetrate it. They appeared to absorb energy weapons rather than deflect them." Scathar circled the hologram, the ancient cybernetics in his eyes analyzing the vessel from every angle. "A single ship, regardless of its capabilities, cannot stand against the might of the Juric Empire." He turned back to the War Council. "Assemble the Grand Armada. Every warship, every soldier. We will erase these humans from existence." Warchief Zexver mandibles clicked in the Juric equivalent of a thoughtful frown. "Great Emperor, perhaps we should gather more intelligence before committing our—" The Warchief never finished his sentence. The Emperor's tail lashed out with blinding speed, the venomous spike piercing Zexver's throat. The Warchief collapsed, body convulsing as the neurotoxin dissolved his neural pathways. "Any other strategic advice?" Scathar asked, his voice deceptively soft as he retracted his dripping tail spike. The War Council remained silent. "Good. The Grand Armada deploys in one standard day. We will demonstrate to the galaxy what happens when a species challenges the Juric Empire." The Juric Empire mobilized on an unprecedented scale, 300 capital ships, thousands of fighters, and their supreme dreadnought, the World Ender. The massive vessel, nearly twice the size of the Leviathan, had been used only twice in Imperial history, each time resulting in the complete sterilization of a planet. As the Armada approached Sol, they transmitted their intentions to both Earth and the Concord. The complete eradication of humanity, followed by the harvesting of all resources in the system. The Concord, despite agreeing to an alliance with Earth, informed humanity they could not mobilize defensive forces quickly enough. Political and logistical realities meant Earth would face this extinction-level threat alone. "Cowards," muttered Admiral Vostok as she terminated the communication with the Concord representative. "They fear the Juric more than they value their new ally." In the Leviathan's war room, Vostok studied the tactical displays with her senior officers. The Juric outnumbered them 3-1 in capital ships and 5-1 in support vessels. The approaching armada formed a sphere of destruction that would envelop the entire Sol system. "They expect to find a single dreadnought, perhaps with a few support vessels," Vostok noted, manipulating the holographic display to highlight the Juric formation. "They have no idea what humanity is truly capable of." Lieutenant Commander Maya Chen, architect of Earth's intelligence operations and sister to Ambassador Sarah Chen, smiled coldly. "Then let's show them." Vostok nodded and opened a secure channel to Earth Command. "Operation Thunderbolt is authorized. Deploy all assets." Throughout the Sol system, preparations accelerated. Civilian populations moved to hardened underground shelters. Defense platforms around Earth, Mars, and the outer colonies activated their stealth protocols. The hidden shipyards in the asteroid belt completed final preparations on humanity's newest vessels. Most importantly, in the shadow of Saturn, the TDS Prometheus, humanity's true masterpiece, powered up its revolutionary drive system for the first time. Twice the size of the Leviathan and built for a single purpose: empire breaking. Emperor Scathar stood on the command deck of the World Ender, his ancient frame vibrating with anticipation as the Grand Armada dropped out of FTL at the edge of the Sol system. "Deploy in sphere formation," he ordered. "No escape vector shall remain open. I want their home planet visible on the main display." The tactical officer complied, bringing up an image of Earth, blue, green, and white against the blackness of space. It appeared peaceful, vulnerable. Primitive species often place religious significance on their homeworlds. The Emperor noted, "We shall destroy at last, after they have witnessed the annihilation of their colonies. Commander Kvex, you will redeem yourself by firing the first shot. Target their fourth planet's moon." Kvex bowed deeply, grateful for the opportunity to restore his honor. "As you command, Great Emperor." Weapons locked on Phobos. Firing solution. "Energy spike," shouted the sensor officer, their voice rising in alarm. Multiple signatures across the entire system. The Emperor turned sharply. "What signatures? Where?" "Everywhere. They're decloaking." As the Exuric Armada scanned for Earth's defenses, and initially found nothing, a trap 3 centuries in the making was sprung. At Admiral Vostok's command, humanity revealed its full might. From behind Luna, from Mars' shadow, from camouflaged bases in the asteroid belt, the complete human fleet decloaked simultaneously, 50 vessels of varying sizes, each incorporating the same revolutionary technology as the Leviathan. And from the shadow of Saturn, emerging like a Leviathan from the depths, came the Prometheus. Its hull gleamed with the same light-absorbing metamaterial as its smaller siblings, but its size dwarfed even the World Ender. Along its length, weapon ports opened like the maws of ancient sea creatures preparing to feed. On the World Ender's command deck, Emperor Scathar's mandibles clicked rapidly in shock. Impossible. From the heart of the human fleet, Admiral Vostok's transmission reached every vessel in the Exuric Armada simultaneously. "This is Admiral Elena Vostok of the Terran Defense Force. Your empire attacked us without provocation. You return with genocide as your intent." Her voice hardened. "You came to the wrong neighborhood." Without waiting for a response, the human fleet attacked, not with the measured precision of their first engagement, but with overwhelming coordinated force. The neural-linked vessels moved in perfect synchronization, creating overlapping fields of fire that overwhelmed Exuric shields through sheer volume of kinetic impacts. The outer layer of the Exuric formation disintegrated within minutes. Emperor Scathar, witnessing the destruction of ships that had conquered dozens of worlds, felt fear for the first time in centuries. "All vessels, concentrate fire on their largest ship," he commanded, pointing a clawed appendage at the Prometheus. "Destroy their flagship." The Exuric Armada reoriented, bringing their combined firepower to bear on the massive human vessel. Energy weapons, plasma torpedoes, and relativistic missiles converged on the Prometheus in a storm of destructive potential that could have shattered a small moon. For a moment, the Prometheus disappeared within the conflagration. A cheer rose from the Exuric command deck, silenced instantly as the smoke cleared. The human Dreadnought emerged undamaged, its hull pulsing with absorbed energy. "What manner of technology is this?" whispered Kvex. The answer came in the form of the Prometheus's counterattack. The absorbed energy was channeled into its main weapon system, a gravitational distortion projector that literally bent space-time around 20 Exuric vessels, crushing them into unrecognizable masses of compressed matter. Emperor Scathar watched in horror as a third of his fleet was systematically dismantled by a force he had dismissed as primitive less than a standard month ago. His mandibles clicked in agitation as he turned to his remaining commanders. "Prepare my escape vessel," he ordered quietly. "The Empire must survive, even if this battle is lost." Kvex stared in shock. "Great Emperor, the battle is not." "The battle was lost before it began," Scathar interrupted, his voice uncharacteristically subdued. "These humans, they are something new. Something we have not encountered in 1,000 years of conquest." He turned back to the tactical display, watching another dozen Exuric vessels disintegrate under coordinated human attacks. "They let us come. They wanted us to bring everything we had." As the Emperor moved toward the escape pod chamber, alarms blared across the World Ender. Kvex looked up to see humanoid figures materializing directly on the command deck, specialized boarding teams using phase shift technology that allowed them to bypass physical barriers. The last thing Emperor Scathar saw before losing consciousness was a human female in black combat armor, her neural interface glowing around her eyes as she aimed a non-lethal weapon at his head. "Emperor Scathar," said Lieutenant Sasha Kuznetsov, "by authority of the Terran Defense Force, you are under arrest for crimes against humanity and attempted genocide." The fire of vengeance had been answered not with annihilation, but with justice, a concept foreign to the Kachuric Empire, but fundamental to humanity's conception of civilization. The Battle of Sol would be remembered not just for humanity's technological superiority, but for their restraint in victory. The galaxy would soon learn that humans could be more terrifying in mercy than in wrath. The Grand Council chamber of the Galactic Concord had never been so silent. Representatives from 37 species sat in stunned disbelief as Ambassador Sarah Chen presented the captured Zurich Emperor to the assembly. Scathar, the conqueror of 1,000 worlds, stood in restraints, his once gleaming carapace now dulled with defeat, his cybernetic enhancements disabled by human countermeasures. "The Exuric threat has been neutralized," Chen announced, her voice carrying easily through the vast space. "Earth claims their emperor as our prisoner and their territories as reparations for their unprovoked attack. We will oversee the transition of conquered worlds back to self-governance, with Concord oversight if desired." High Chancellor Illyria's ancient eyes studied the human ambassador carefully. The Battle of Sol is already being described as the most one-sided victory in recorded galactic history. Your species faced the full might of the Kachuric Empire and emerged without a single confirmed casualty. Chen nodded, acknowledging the statement without false modesty. "Our technological advantage was significant, Chancellor. More importantly, our strategic philosophy differs fundamentally from the Zurich. They believe in overwhelming force. We believe in perfect knowledge followed by precise application of capability." "And now?" asked Ambassador Telerin of the Voxari, her telepathic abilities detecting complex emotional currents from the human delegation. "With the Exuric defeated and the Concord acknowledging your sovereignty, what does humanity intend?" Chen's expression softened slightly. "Now we build, not weapons, but connections. Not walls, but bridges." She gestured to the defeated emperor. "We did not execute Scathar, though our laws would permit it. Instead, he will stand trial before a multi-species tribunal, answering for crimes committed against dozens of civilizations." "A remarkably restrained response," noted Councillor Thrix, his crystalline form still reflecting skepticism, "particularly from a species we once considered too aggressive to join galactic society." "Perhaps," Chen replied with a slight smile, "you confuse the capacity for aggression with the desire for it. Humanity evolved on a death world, as you classified it. We developed technology to survive our environment, then to improve it. We created weapons to defend, not to conquer." She gestured to the holographic display showing the aftermath of the Battle of Sol. Zurich vessels being systematically boarded, their crews taken prisoner rather than executed. When given the opportunity for vengeance, we chose justice. When faced with an enemy dedicated to our extinction, we opted for capture rather than annihilation. Judge us by our actions, Counselor, not by your fears. The Concord Council realized they were witnessing a fundamental shift in the galactic balance of power. The species they had quarantined as primitive had emerged as the most formidable military force known, yet wielded that power with restraint unprecedented among emerging civilizations. Within a decade, the Terran Alliance transformed from an isolated system to the center of a new galactic order. Humanity's unique approach, blending diplomacy with unmistakable strength, attracted allies from across the stars. Their technology, particularly in the fields of neural integration, metamaterials, and propulsion, advanced faster than any species had thought possible. On Nevera, a world that had suffered under Zurich occupation for 3 centuries, Ambassador Chen oversaw the installation of a democratically elected government. The grateful population had erected a monument depicting a human hand extended in friendship, a symbol that would be replicated on dozens of liberated worlds. Your species continues to confound expectations, Ambassador, observed T-Laren, who had been assigned as the Concord's representative to the transition. Many believe your talk of liberation was merely a pretext for establishing your own empire, yet you withdraw your forces once stability is achieved. Chen smiled as they watched Nevaran children playing in parks that had once been Xuric military installations. Empires require constant maintenance, Ambassador T-Laren. Partnerships thrive on mutual benefit. The Terran Alliance seeks allies, not subjects. And the Prometheus? Asked T-Laren carefully. The most powerful warship ever constructed remains on patrol at the edge of former Xuric space. Some council members view this as concerning. The Prometheus serves as a reminder, Chen replied, not of humanity's power, but of our commitment to preventing another Xuric empire from rising. When species know that aggression will be met with overwhelming response, most choose peace. The neural integration technology that had given humanity its decisive advantage in battle found even greater purpose in peacetime. Adapted for medical applications, it allowed for unprecedented healing of neural damage. Modified for educational use, it accelerated learning and cross-cultural understanding. The same technology that had made the Leviathan an extension of Lieutenant Kuznetsov's consciousness now allowed species with vastly different sensory experiences to share perspectives directly. In the diplomatic district of the rebuilt Concord Prime Station, representatives from formerly hostile species worked together on shared challenges: environmental restoration of war-damaged worlds, establishment of fair trade practices, development of technology to benefit all sentient beings. Admiral Elena Vostok, now Fleet Commander of the Unified Concord Defense Force, stood on the observation deck watching hundreds of ships from dozens of species training together, incorporating human tactical doctrines alongside traditional Concord protocols. 10 years ago, we were preparing for our extinction, she remarked to the alien dignitaries beside her. Today, we prepare to explore beyond the known galaxy together. A Xuric representative, one of the moderate faction that had replaced the Emperor's regime, clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. My species believed strength came from domination. Yours has taught us it comes from cooperation. Vostok nodded. We never wanted to conquer, she told him. We simply refused to be conquered. There is a profound difference. On Earth, Lieutenant Commander Maya Chen, the intelligence officer who had first discovered the alien monitoring satellites centuries earlier, visited the Museum of First Contact with her grandchildren. The centerpiece of the exhibition was a decommissioned Concorde observation probe, displayed alongside the first human-made device to successfully intercept its transmissions. Did you really help build this, grandmother? Asked the youngest child, pointing to a replica of the original Leviathan. Maya smiled, recalling those tense days of secret preparation, the uncertainty of whether humanity's gamble would succeed. I played a small part. Many thousands of humans working together created these vessels, and millions more maintained the deception that allowed us to build them in secret. Teacher says we could have conquered the galaxy, said the older grandchild. But instead, we chose to protect it. Is that true? Maya considered the question carefully. We could have used our advantage to dominate, yes, but that would have made us no better than the Xuric. True strength isn't about having the most powerful weapons. It's about knowing when not to use them. In a special wing of the Concord Medical Center, Lieutenant Sasha Kuznetsov, her body and mind permanently altered by the deep neural integration during the Battle of Sol, worked with scientists from 7 species on the next generation of interface technology. Though she could no longer pilot a vessel, her unique perspective bridging human and machine consciousness proved invaluable in developing systems that would allow the most divergent species to communicate directly. The Xuric failed because they saw difference as weakness, she explained to a group of students. Humanity succeeded because we recognized that diversity of thought, of biology, of approach, creates resilience. She activated a neural demonstration, allowing the students to briefly experience her expanded consciousness. We don't need to become the same to work together. We need only to understand each other. Across thousands of worlds, the stories spread of the Death World species that built dreadnoughts in secret and emerged to save the galaxy from tyranny. Children of all species played games reenacting the Battle of Sol,